Welcome back to another edition of the Fried Egg Golf Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Johnson, and I am joined by a fellow co-host here, Garrett Morrison. We are going to continue our architecture mailbag. We recorded a podcast earlier this week that kind of centered around golf architecture. We talked about the rankings. We talked about our event courses, and we did a mailbag where we got to a few questions. I think our conversation about the top 100 rankings recently released by Golf Magazine went a little bit longer than we anticipated, so we got to fewer questions. So thus, we're going to dive into a lot of questions in this podcast and get to those reader and listener questions. So, Garrett, welcome on. Thanks for joining. Big week here of mailbag question pods.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me on. You want to dive right in?
I was going to talk about our friends over at True Golf first.
Oh yeah, of course, got to do that.
Yeah, they make this stuff possible. If you're into golf architecture, if you're into playing golf courses, True Golf is something you can do during these winter months. They have a product called Launchbox, and it is a launch monitor. It's a portable launch monitor and golf simulator from True Golf. It seamlessly connects to your PC or iOS device, and it makes it super easy to play golf courses or improve your golf game year round. I would love to just get really dialed in on wedge practice, go DJ style with my wedge game, and I'm thinking that the Launchbox will be perfect for that. A couple things that the Launchbox offers: simple setup, instant shot registration, accurate measured data, and an easy Wi-Fi connection. So one of the great things about this product, it can be used inside. So if you wanted to set up like kind of an in-home setup, you could use it inside. If you wanted to convert a part of your garage to this or your basement, you could do that inside. Or if you're in a more temperate place where outside practice is feasible at this time of year, it works off mats outside. So this could be even an outdoor setup where you find a part of your backyard, put a mat down, put this baby out there and get a net, and it can be that. So it's really versatile. You could obviously take it to the driving range as well. But one of the neat things is you can play golf courses. So it is a way to stay fresh. It's a way to scratch that golf itch, especially these winter months. If you want to learn more about True Golf's Launchbox, go to truegolf.com/egg. That's TrueGolf, TrueGolf.com/egg. All right, let's dive into the architecture mailbag. We got a ton of questions, so let's just get cooking here. Let's talk about Linnea Wethicam asks, Michigan and Yale excluded. What are some of your favorite university-owned golf courses architecture-wise? Now that Yale is under renovation, any courses you can think of that should have work done?
Great question. I haven't played all of these, but the list I came up with when I saw Linnea's question included the Iowa State course, Vinker Memorial, I think is what it's called.
Perry Maxwell
Golf Course. Could use some work, probably some restoration work. So that would be like candidate number one, probably the course that I'm most interested in seeing and finding out more about. Certainly Stanford Golf Course is a classic George Thomas, Billy Bell design. I think mostly Billy Bell. I'm not sure of the history there, but I've played this course and it was years ago, but a lot of cool holes out there and some great land.
I have two. This is definitely a high potential one where it could just get a lot better. I think like they have an awesome practice facility for the team, and I just imagine that they will continue to upgrade. You know what's an interesting fact about Stanford? Do you know what the most popular or the hardest class to get into at Stanford is?
No, what is it?
Intro to golf.
Seriously? There's an intro to golf class that you take for a grade?
Heard this the other day. Hardest class to get into at Stanford.
because everybody wants to do it. It sounds like a fun little schedule filler.
I think too, people like realize, hey, this would be good for my career if I at least have some basic golf skills.
All the budding entrepreneurs and tech executives who go to Stanford want to make sure that they can play some rounds at Cow Club and Meadow Club and San Francisco Golf Club and such places.
Well, I think it makes sense to have a good place to play for the students. It is a good place to play today. Mm-hmm. It could be better though.
Yeah, definitely could be better. There are some issues with the property that have emerged over time, but also just basic design stuff. I think they could take a look at that course and consider what would Billy Bell do here and make it a bit better. Certainly, Ohio State University, the Ohio State University has some Alistair McKenzie work that has perhaps not been particularly well preserved by one of their alumni, Jack Nicklaus. Duke University Golf Course, Robert Trent Jones course that actually looks pretty cool. I've never been there myself, but 1950s Trent Jones.
I think that one is a candidate for a big renovation.
Yeah. Do some Trent Jones stuff there though, right? Don't just blow it up. I want to see, this might be a radical position these days, but I'd kind of want to see some restorative work, maybe improve some things here and there, but go for the feel of a 1950s Robert Trent Jones golf course.
In a modern vein.
And maybe with some modernizing touches, but take it seriously what he was doing.
You need to move some bunkers around.
You might need to move some bunkers around. Yeah.
That's like the hard thing with his style is it was so based on carry distances.
Yeah. Carry oriented.
Yeah.
Sure. Protecting par. Yeah. That kind of stuff is it's hard to age that stuff. But there are a bunch of others too. What other ones?
What about Denison Golf Club?
Okay. I don't know much about this one.
It's a Donald Ross.
Yeah.
I haven't been there. I send people there all the time who ask me for recommendations.
Oh, really?
It's supposed to be really cool property. Years ago, they did like a kind of a stupid project that like they went up and they kind of they got rid of the original 18 holes. And they have like this property up high that you go up to, and it's like a housing development for 3 holes. But there's 15 original Donald Ross holes there on a really nice property. And
a little bit of potential.
Yeah, I think Donald Ross's work in Ohio, I've seen a lot of his work in Ohio. It's really outstanding. Like I think like his work in Ohio and Michigan's probably his best work. So that one is really high on the list. I believe they have a renovation plan in the works there. Mm-hmm. They have maybe you could say concepts of a plan in the works with a very high profile architect.
Cool.
So that's one that's pretty interesting.
I've maybe heard some rumblings about this.
Mm-hmm.
I think people can probably guess the architect who might be involved. But in any case, what's actually sort of tantalizing about university courses is that often the universities have the ability to restore or renovate the courses because they can draw on these endowments that have over the past 20 years or so really grown at a lot of these universities. So that's why Yale is doing the work it's doing now. And hopefully, the University of Michigan gets its act together sometime soon as well and takes a look at its Alistair McKenzie course. We haven't mentioned...
the college stuff, I think this is something we haven't really talked about very much from like an architecture standpoint that is actually pretty fascinating. These college facilities, the college golf programs, some of them are spending insane amounts of money. Like insane amounts of money on practice facilities and golf courses. Right. If you think about like right now, University of Alabama is about to open a facility that I believe I saw was like $100 million.
It did open, I think. And the course was renovated by
Jerry
Love
Payton.
Golf Design.
Or Love Golf Design. Okay.
I don't know. Was Jerry Payton involved?
No, it was Love Golf Design.
Okay.
Also being renovated is the Karsten Creek course.
Yeah. That's right. Andrew Green.
Oklahoma State, their golf course. Andrew Green's doing a renovation there. Like Vanderbilt just opened, I think it was like a $15 million practice facility.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is. I do think like there is like, we talk about golf design in a lot of vein for like the retail golfer. If these college programs get to the point where they're designing golf courses for their college program, it's kind of a fascinating topic. Like, how would you build a golf course for a men's and women's college golf team? Do you build it? Like, to me, you're never going to play NCAAs at that course. Do you build the golf course to test like the widest range of skills? To like, do you build it with different styles? Do you have like super narrow holes, wider holes, greens that like maybe the greens over 18 holes don't fit together, but they offer a wide range of variety? I just like, I think it's a fascinating topic because I think like the exercise of if you wanted to purely build a golf course for a college golf team to practice at and play at and to qualify, one of the most important things is qualify at. Like this is the course that deems who goes on the road for your team for the most part. I don't think you build a golf course in the traditional retail golf sense.
Mm-hmm. Might be more of a test of skill as opposed to maximum playability.
I think it'd be more of a test of skill, and I think you would want to have like supreme variety in the way you test the skill.
On the other hand, these courses also serve students and alumni.
Some of them. I think some of them are becoming more
like training facilities.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's sort of a bummer because, you know, it's a really great addition to your college experience if you can go out and play a great golf course for cheap. I think that's a wonderful thing to offer students.
It is.
So I also think it's great as a potential academic exercise, right? You could take landscape architecture students out to this wonderfully built golf course and have like an in-field lesson about some of the things that the architect did. I think that would be really cool. You know, I've always thought that Yale's course had such potential in this regard, but the university never really used it in that way, right? This is a university that really prizes its building architecture and uses its building architecture for pedagogical purposes all the time. But it has this classic Seth Rayner golf course, unbelievable golf course that's completely unique and never really took advantage of it as a teaching tool. And I think that some of these golf courses can be that. Maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration for some universities with the golf courses that they have, but certainly a Perry Maxwell course at Ohio State could serve this purpose. I don't know. Michigan for sure.
Well, the thing that's interesting about the Ohio State thing is they have 36 holes.
That's right.
Like they could make the Scarlet, they could build into like a Mackenzie inspired. I don't think there's I think there's a lot of questions about like how much time he spent there.
Mm-hmm.
But also like the idea of like, okay, I don't know how well you could put it back. Right. But like having a Mackenzie inspired championship golf course on one side, and then that great course, the other course that's like short, it's on really nice land. Like it's a really nice piece of property. That could be just like super fun, beginner friendly campus golf. Right.
Yeah. Love that idea. Yeah.
Well,
can I shout out a couple of other university golf courses before we move on?
Yeah. I was going to throw out the forgotten Michigan course, Radrick Farms.
Yeah. Right.
It's like super early Pete Dye. It's awesome. It's really
I've heard
good.
Great things about this. Yeah.
Yeah. I played it years ago, probably about 8 years ago. It was so fun.
Mm-hmm.
There are some really
Parker
cool
Anderson
holes.
talks about this one a lot. A guy who shapes for Tom Doak and was on the podcast a while back. He studied it at Michigan, and Yeah, loves Radrick Farms.
Radrick is really cool. It's a cool piece of land. Some really neat holes. Super fun place to play golf.
Nice. All right, other great ones. The Warren course at Notre Dame. I don't know how closely associated it is with the university. I think pretty closely associated, right?
Very.
But yeah, so it's there.
This was like an early, that golf course is different moment for me. I played a high school, like a national junior event there when I was like 15 or 16. And I'll like never forget the greens. The greens were unlike anything I had like ever putted on. They're really wild Core Crenshaw greens.
Yeah, they went for it because the land is like not quite sandhills, you know? And so they went for some things.
It's got some decent parts. It's got some decent moments in the land, but for the most part it's flat. I played there a few years ago for the first time since then. It's that's one of the best values in the world.
Yes. Well, that's another thing about university courses is that often they have a mission beyond just making money. And so that means that they can sometimes offer affordable access to the public, which is great. Taconic Golf Club near Williams College up in the Massachusetts wilderness.
I've always wanted to see that place.
Very cool place. I actually played it when I was in college. The course at Sewanee, 9-hole Gil Hance golf course.
Have you seen that?
I haven't seen it.
It's pretty cool.
It's pretty close to Sweetens Cove. Like it's within striking distance of Sweetens Cove. So it makes for like a good double.
I think it's absolutely insane that people like so many people go to Sweetens and don't go to Sewanee.
Right. As long as you're out there, you might
like
as well
20
just
minutes apart.
And it's a 9-hole golf course. So you don't have to spend an extra day, you know?
Well, you could do a day at Sewanee and a day at Sweetens. You could do a day at Sewanee just like you do a day at Sweetens. It's super fun.
I've heard it's like a cool university too.
It seems cool. I mean, it seems like a very beautiful place, idyllic place to go to college. It makes me feel it's one of those places I now that I'm almost 40, I think about all the places, you know, you don't have this regret because you went to a neat place to go to college. And I love Illinois. I'm not.
University of Illinois is awesome. Champaign-Urbana is a wonderful college town.
What are you talking about?
Really? I don't know. Like, that was my perception of it.
No, it's Central Illinois. I like Sewanee's like an inspiring place. It's like up in the mountains. It's beautiful.
Well, yeah, it's totally different. Like that's a liberal arts university.
I see these campuses of other campuses. It's like, why did I spend 5 years of my life in Champaign?
I honestly think that's a pretty cool college town.
But I mean, I saved a lot of money.
I didn't spend that much time
5 years of my life in Champaign. So
yeah. That's a big deal. Well, if you want to see a cool college campus, Williams, which is where Taconic is connected to, is one of the coolest college campuses out there.
If you could do it over, where would you go to college?
I'd go to the same place.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
See, this is impossible. You do this, and then your entire life would change if you did it over.
Right.
I wouldn't be doing this.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what other choice I would have made. I don't talk about it on the podcast much, but I went to Yale College for my undergraduate, and I don't introduce this information much to people because they start to think I'm a certain kind of person. But I loved my college experience, loved that 4 years that I spent, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. I don't think. Yeah.
I gotta ask this. This is off topic. We've swerved off topic here.
We definitely have. Architecture mailbag? What?
How do Ivy Leaguers feel about the term public Ivy? Because Illinois has now been deemed a public Ivy.
But it sort of seems like, what has been deemed a public Ivy?
Illinois.
University of Illinois. I believe that. It's a great university, but I think it's maybe a little bit, isn't it a little bit insulting? Isn't it like, I don't know. Why does the University of Illinois need to compare itself to anything?
Well, that's what we do when we're just a humble Midwest state school.
I think it's sort of like poor man's Pebble Beach.
Pacific Grove.
Right. whereas I think that Pacific Grove is wonderful in its own right, and in a lot of ways better than Pebble Beach. I don't know, that's sort of a harsh take, but I feel completely fine about whatever people want to call their universities. I mean, I think having had the experience of going to one of these colleges, I know that there are no great mysteries about the education that happens there. It's just as good and just as bad as the education that happens everywhere else. There's no magical thing that occurs at these places. And so, yeah, I'm completely fine with somebody calling themselves a public Ivy.
Back to colleges, a course that I may never see that I really do actually want to see is the Naval Academy, which Andrew Green did work at.
Oh,
William Flint.
That's a good shout.
I'm actually
there's like a ton of great, cool college courses.
I think there's also probably an interesting, if you dove into the military-based courses, there might be a couple interesting ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure. I think there's a cool one at West Point, but I'm not quite sure what it is. The one that also came to mind for me is the Hotchkiss course. This is not a college. This is a private boarding school in New England, and it has a Rainer course that really needs to be brought back to life.
That's there's this other place in New Hampshire called Grand Leiden. It's like a neighborhood course. Have you heard of this? It's a little off. You never heard of Grand Leiden?
No.
I might be mispronouncing it. It's like in a neighborhood, but it's not a private club, but it's just for people that live in the neighborhood, I believe. Yeah. And it's like super scruffy, but like some of the most, I've seen some pictures, and they're some of the craziest Walter Travis greens I've seen.
Right.
And it's just like sitting in this neighborhood. It's like a private neighborhood course.
That's awesome.
And it's barely maintained.
I don't think I've ever heard that before. All right.
It's in New Hampshire.
Let's move on to a new topic here. We could talk about college courses, it seems like, in college life for another hour and a half. But let's take a little bit of a turn here and talk about the best bang for your buck golf architecture trip. This is from Dan Golf's 3 to 5 rounds within decent driving distance of each other. Now, we've talked about some of these trips pretty extensively, and so we don't need to like rehash all of them here, but I'll obviously just throw out Grand Rapids right away.
Yes.
The Mike DeVries Trail in Grand Rapids, which
Maine.
We always point people to. Maine is a good one. We have a whole recent podcast about that. Ventura County, where you can go to Rustic Canyon. This is in California. Rustic Canyon, Soul Park, and then, a couple of kind of fun Ventura municipal courses called Olivas Links and Buenaventura, which don't have the greatest architecture in the world, but they have a variety of golf holes. They're fun to play and they're really affordable. I think that's a cool one too.
Nebraska Sandhills.
Yep.
And which we have an entire podcast.
You can hear more about that from Matt Ruchis and Andy Johnson on the Fried Egg Golf Podcast.
What about Maine? Or what about Boston?
So Boston is the other big one that we need to let people know about. Franklin Park, George Wright, Highland Links out on Cape Cod, and then go to Old Salem Greens in Salem. That is a hell of a trip. I'm not sure it like gets much better than that in terms of cost and quality.
Yeah. That one's incredible. I think there's also, we talked about it a little bit here. It requires a little bit of driving, but you can do the Sewanee Sweetens in Chattanooga. You can go see the course that's the first. Everybody talks about Tom Doak and Bill Coore starting the minimalism movement. Mike Young at the Fields.
Oh yeah,
built the first minimalist golf course. So you could fly into Atlanta. You could go down to the Fields, or you could go up to Sweetens, but then you come back down to the Fields, and it's a bit of a haul. But then you're driving over, and you're playing Aiken Golf Club. And I mean, if you get there, you could fly in one place, fly out of the other. A lot of times I fly into one airport and fly out of the other on trips. You don't always have to do round trip. I don't know if I want to put this out into public airwaves, but most of the time, some rental car companies do not, like, if you return it somewhere else, that's not a big deal.
Are you eventually going to get arrested for this?
No, they just they'll just charge you a one-way rate. Sometimes sometimes you get jammed. But on that, like you that's four really good golf courses. You could throw in like Old Toccoa Farms is in that area, which could be another one you hit. And then obviously there's some ways to garner access at places, especially like right now. Like I know like Broomsedge has some like times that you can get if you want to go see that. That's in the Camden area of South Carolina. So that one requires a little bit more driving, but you know it's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's I mean, a lot of amazing golf courses. Maybe not always bang for your buck, strictly defined, but the fields for sure is bang for your buck.
Sewanee is bang for your buck,
and Sewanee Aiken, also.
And Aiken is like the
one of the
bang
best
for your buck du jour.
Yeah.
I mean, $25. You're not gonna find. I like to use like restaurant recommendations. I was talking with someone this week about this, and he was like, you know what? The way I like my golf courses or the way I like my restaurants, I either want to have like the best taco from like just a taco stand or the best burger from just a burger stand that's like $10, or I want to have, and like, so the golf version of that is like Aiken Golf Club, $25, and you're just going to be like smiling from ear to ear all day long. Or I want the very best. I want the like awesome architecture, great playing surfaces. And he's like, I don't want anything in the middle.
I kind of get that. Right?
I think I kind of align. Like I love places like Aiken Golf Club. I'll play like Aiken Golf Club over the quintessential high end public golf course in City X designed by Regional Architect X. For the most part, we're speaking in generalities here, but I do kind of agree with that. Another one you could keep going to is you could go play the Muni in Charleston. It'll kick your ass if you can break par at the Muni.
Not an easy golf course by any means.
It's going to test your precision and short game there.
All right, I'm going to throw another topic at you, and I'm going to kind of swerve on it. We got like a few questions in a row about how do you get started in appreciating golf architecture without completely overwhelming yourself. And the way I wanted to maybe answer this question with you is by asking you about how you got started. Maybe this would help people to, kind of know more about how you got into it, and maybe they could do something similar.
When I think about it, I caddied.
Yeah.
I think that was like how I got into it. Was like a means of wanting to be good at caddying and understanding the way different players had to play a golf course to maximize their talent. I used to I worked Tuesday afternoons at the club that I caddied. I worked bag room on Tuesday afternoons, and I caddied every Tuesday morning. And Tuesday morning was Ladies' Day, and it was I think it probably had the biggest impact on me being into golf architecture, because if you caddy for lower trajectory players, you have to understand how to use angles. And you have to understand the give and takes of hitting it here or hitting it there. And them being shorter hitters makes them much more precise. Like the ability, I always used to say to my mom, like, you don't have to aim 50 yards away from a bunker. Like you're not going to hit it in that thing. So like understanding how to get around a golf course, I think is like the easiest thing to understand is looking at a hole and looking at the bunkers and then getting on the green and feeling the green and understanding why bunkers are certain places and how they influence like where you might want to be. I think that's the easiest way. And then you can dive into like reading.
Yes, right. Most people would want to start with the on the ground physical knowledge of how golf courses work. For good players, this can be complicated. Like you were introduced to it through watching different kinds of players play the game. Because you were a good player, you would have played a golf course a certain way, but then you saw other people who are very different playing the golf course in a completely different way, and that starts to give you an appreciation of what good golf architecture can do.
I had a regular loop on Ladies' Day, and it was incredible to see how you could improve someone's golf game just by getting them around a golf course. It was super interesting because like it was about like just like laying up to certain areas. Like, hey, there's a fronting bunker. The course Knollwood Club has really deep bunkers.
Charles Allison
course and tilted greens, like pretty severely tilted greens. So a lot of it was just like, hey, I know you can hit it on the green, but you can't hold the green. It's elevated into the air and you have to carry over this bunker. Let's just like lay it over here, short left and chip up and get out of here. Like just understanding that stuff. Like if you're not in position, get back into position. I think that's the stuff that like people don't think about with the understanding of golf architecture that helps every player. Like every single player can be so much better if you just understand what you're looking at. And it helps you, like, I think like this is where the analytics community will say, oh, understanding golf architecture doesn't matter. Oh, it absolutely does when it comes to like seeing a golf course and understanding where to leave shots when you're out of position. Mm-hmm. More so than like getting it up the left side to get an angle, that's, fractions better than if you're on the other side of the fairway. Where you save the most shots without a doubt is understanding where to leave balls and that there are slopes that if you leave in the right spot, you can get yourself to where you're chipping back into a bowl or you're not on the wrong side of a really severe contour, even though it's like wide open green space and short grass. Like just an understanding of what you're looking at and what the architect's trying to do to you. Where they're trying to get you to hit it because it looks nice and it might look really nice on Google Earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I agree with that. I find it frustrating when people assert that it doesn't help you in any way because clearly a lot of great players, the greatest players, have had a very sharp understanding of golf architecture. And I think that it can help you be more aware out there. That's not to say that every great player understands architecture intellectually, but I think most great players have at least an instinctive grasp of it, right?
I think this is like an interesting example, and someday maybe I'll ask him this at an event. But I do think that like if you look at Rory, I think he really started getting into golf architecture in like 2019-ish. But his performance at like majors that he used to, people said he used to not be able to play firm courses. And if you start to look at how he plays some of these golf courses, like he understands the architecture a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily about like whether he's hitting driver or 3-iron, but if you watch like a lot of times like where he leaves or like his shots around the green, like he's always seemingly in these positions where on like, if you think back to LACC or Pinehurst number 2, he was always in advantageous places to chip or pitch from versus, I don't know. I think it's just a fascinating thing, but I do think he's gotten more consistent at majors since he's kind of dove into golf architecture. And I'd have to ask him. He had an answer to one question at Pinehurst that was like, it's all about it's all about setting up, and I can't remember exactly what it was. It was after the second round, but it's, I think that you're totally right. Like the highs there in like, it's just understanding where to leave it in the contours. There's so much about that, and what you can use and what you can't use, what you can use and what's going to hurt you.
Well, I'll tell you how I got into it. And it's basically from the opposite direction compared to the way you got into it. I got into it by reading. And the book that introduced me to the idea of golf course design was the World Atlas of Golf. My dad just brought it home one day, thought I would find it interesting. And it's this wonderful book with great writing from great golf writers, but also extraordinary illustrations of some of the best courses in the world. And I just became obsessed with this book. And that's how my interest started. And I went from there to other kinds of golf architecture books. I remember when Spirit of St. Andrews was republished and how that was kind of exciting, right? This is the lost Alistair Mackenzie book. Turns out it wasn't really that lost, but whatever. I read that and I started getting into it that way. I started reading some things online when I was younger. And that's how I created a kind of knowledge base about golf architecture. And then what I had to do after that was try to apply it to what was on the ground on golf courses, because I didn't play that many well-designed golf courses when I was a kid. I played basically the public courses in the town where I grew up, but I found ways to get onto the best regarded courses that I had access to. In Santa Barbara, where I grew up, that was the Valley Club of Montecito. I had no means of getting on that course, but for one summer, I joined the Santa Barbara Junior Golf Tour. And one of the stops on the Santa Barbara Junior Golf Tour, just basically the local junior league, was the Valley Club of Montecito. And that's why I joined that little league for that one summer. So I got to play that golf course. And it was really exciting. And then my dad and I went up and played Pasatiempo and Santa Cruz one year. That was sort of a special trip and a wonderful experience. And so that's kind of my path to it. I started with reading, and then I went to just trying to find access to the best courses that I could. And it wasn't much access, but I think I was able to make the most of it because of some of the reading and knowledge I had acquired through the World Atlas of Golf and other books. And so there are many ways into it, but honestly, like for somebody who's just starting out and just getting interested in it, I would recommend the World Atlas of Golf. I think it's a great way of orienting yourself, whether you're 40 years old or 10 years old. That book has appeal across ages. So
readily available too.
Readily available. The new editions, a lot of people don't love the new editions. I think the new editions are fine. But the old editions with the green cover, those ones have the really great illustrations in them, and also writing by Pat Ward Thomas and Herbert Warren Wind and some true heavy hitters of golf literature. So those ones are pretty special. But I think any edition will really do. And you can find the old editions very affordably on Amazon through the used channels on there and everything.
All right, let's take a quick break, and then we'll get back to the mailbag and talk about Stripe. This is a partnership that I am really excited about. Stripe has been part of our business since really the inception of the business. As soon as we decided to start taking payments online, we started using Stripe. They made it seamless for me to create a way for people to pay online and have it go right into my bank account. It was really a something that was super easy, and without it being really easy, it would have been probably prolonged me getting an online store up for a while. Stripe works with businesses as small as we were 7-8 years ago, but they also work with giant companies such as Alaska Airlines, Hertz, Toyota, WordPress, Zoom, DoorDash, BMW, a lot of these companies that have tons and tons of transactions every day. Stripe, in fact, powers 1% of the global GDP is powered by Stripe. So the way they work is they work in a variety of ways. You can just do your standard checkout. One of the things that's nice about their checkout is they accept a really wide range of payment options. And it's super important to do that so people don't abandon their carts. And they also have a billing product, which helps people that have subscriptions, that helps people that have usage-based billing. And they work with over 300,000 businesses with that billing product. If you want to learn more about how Stripe can help your business, check out stripe.com. Hey, Garrett, Mishitin.
Yeah, I had a problem with that screen name too.
What do you think Bandon should do about the Poe invasion? The answer could be nothing.
This is an impossible question to answer. It's such a hard situation. For context, in case people don't know, basically a lot of the courses at Bandon Dunes are currently undergoing a transition from being maybe mostly fescue, or in some cases partly fescue originally.
And they have different blends. They've grassed things differently over time.
They've gone to like more and more fescue over time. But on the greens especially, there's just a natural transition to POA turf. And anybody who's on the West Coast especially knows about POA greens. They don't have a great reputation, that think of Pebble Beach's greens on a late afternoon at the US Open. They get a little bit bumpy, but POA can be a great putting surface. It's just different from fescue, and it's not quite at Bandon Dunes. The courses just become slower over time, less bouncy over time because of this turf transition. But there's basically no stopping it.
Yeah, it's invasive. Like if you choose to fight it, you're going to fight it all the time. And
I think they just have to roll with it, right?
I don't know.
Are there little things they could do? Could they do like occasional projects, just like regular projects year to year, close down parts of some courses?
So I think like it's a big question of like, what do you want the courses to be? If you want them to play in their original essence, you could think of this as a once every. It seems like 20 years is kind of the ticking time bomb. Maybe it's 15 years of when the rubber meets the road with the POA, and you can't keep it out just based off of the clock of all the courses. I think one of the issues is the POA does not hold up to winter well. And that then causes problems into your, more into your prime season.
Well, right? Especially because they play rounds basically year round there.
Exactly.
They're packed. Even when the weather is really bad, even when it's really wet out there, people are trampling all over the greens.
Yeah, I think that's is like people go to Bandon and they're going to play.
And they have high expectations, understandably.
Garrett, I played in the worst weather I've ever played in my life with you because we were at Bandon. And what else were we going to do? We're going to go out there. We're going to play.
Abandoned trails. We were basically in a monsoon.
That was insane. The ball was going like 110 yards off the tee.
It was crazy. I mean, there was one moment during the round when we all just like stopped and took shelter.
On 11,
Yeah, after we played 11, as we were about to get on to 12T.
That's the one that goes down to the lake, right?
Yeah, with a little lake by it, and then
I think
12
I
is
hit
the long
driver
par 3.
3-wood. It was into like sheeting rain.
It was
not
impossible.
A long hole.
No, yeah, it was pretty wild.
But anyways, like I think this is like part of it is like the winter. It's now a problem because of the winter.
Yeah.
But so if you wanted to fix it, if you wanted to go back to fescue, here's the issue. You have to regrass every course, and you have to take the golf course out of play, each course out of play for a year. And if you take each golf course out of play for a year, you lose your powerful marketing message of come to Bandon Dunes and tell us which course you think is the best.
Rank the courses. That's what everybody wants to do. Everybody wants to go there and have their ranking of the courses.
If I were the Czar Bandon, which I'm not.
That would be Mike Kaiser.
I'm not going to be. How I would approach this is I would start a plan and understand that this is how we're going to maintain the golf course. I would want it back to fescue. That's my personal opinion. I think it's just like the essence of what it is. It's links golf on the coast, and it's American links golf on the coast, and the fescue's the best surface for that. And what I would do is I would start closing one course every other year for the next 10 years, and I would get the greens. And you probably don't even have to do it at Sheep Ranch at this point.
Yeah, maybe.
So, but like I would just bite the bullet, and I would start a plan, and we're going to do this. And I'm going to know that I have to take a course out for a year every 15 to 20 years.
Yeah.
And that's just the way, if we want
just a continual cycle.
Yes. It's just
hard to accept that, you know?
It's just the ongoing, it's operational cost of it. Yeah. And, you know, it's too bad because but like if they add the 6th course, it's going to be really hard to play all the courses at Bandit.
That's true. You have to stay there for
like shorties
at least 4 days, you know? Yeah. And all then.
And preserve, like there's a lot. It's hard to do that all in one trip as it is now.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's a tough situation. It's inevitable.
It's similar to the Pebble situation.
It is. Right. And you have kind of similar climates, right? Not exactly the same. Oregon's is much harsher.
Are you suggesting that Monterey in North is part of the Pacific Northwest?
Oh God. Just walked right into that one. Just walked right into it. Damn it.
For those that aren't familiar, I have a long-standing belief that particularly just north of San Francisco,
extremely offensive to native Californians
Northwest.
Like me.
Yeah,
yeah, and he has his own geography of he believes that I don't know what you believe that it's all Central California.
And we're all Pacific. We're all fellow
Central
Cascadians.
California is part of the Pacific Northwest.
Yes.
Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say. Oregon's wet.
They have similar climates.
Oregon's wet. You know, Monterey can get foggy and cold and wet. You know, they're not great places for avoiding POA. You're just going to get it, right? And so you're fighting against nature. And I guess if they want the ideal playing conditions, that's what they have to do. They just have to go to war with nature. But we're just learning, I guess, that fescue doesn't do super well in a coastal climate like the southern coast of Oregon. Whereas if you go to Gamble Sands or Sand Valley, the fescue there is doing amazingly well, right?
Sand Valley's playing surfaces legitimately might be the best playing surfaces in America.
They're unbelievable. Truly unbelievable.
You know, like I do think like a course that goes way under the radar, and I had conversations this week about this, like just how intertwined maintenance and golf architecture are. The Loop at Forest Dunes does not get nearly enough respect because it's got like incredible design, but the playing surfaces are as good as you're going to find. It is firm and fast fescue. Like it
Yeah.
is.
Michigan's a good place for it. And Kingsley's playing surfaces are well regarded as well, you know?
Mm-hmm. But like Forest Dunes, like at the loop, the ball just rockets and they have these awesome contours. It's relatively flat. Like that is, to me, probably the closest to playing in Scotland that you can get in America on like really crispy, firm turf is Forest Dunes. I think like Sand Valley is a little bit different golf because you get more elevation out there, you know? It's a little bit more dramatic golf than your Scotland golf, but like to me, God, yeah, Sand Valley and Forest Dunes, the fescue is amazing.
Remarkable. And these courses are starting to age a little bit, and we're seeing how they age. And I think it's probably going to start to inform some future decisions about where big developers build golf courses, right? Because do you really want to build a links-like golf course in a setting where it's so difficult to have links-like turf? I think that that's going to be a real question that the Kaisers and others have to answer in the coming years. How are you going to make the turf great 15, 20 years from now? And that's something that we've seen kind of proven out with Sand Valley. Well, at least so far. Sand Valley's not that old.
It's
right?
like nine years old.
Yeah.
Now.
So the Abandoned's
years.
much older. We should keep that in mind. But it is such a different experience, and it gives that resort kind of a new status.
An interesting other turf course in turf and great architecture that I always think about is Gray Walls.
Yeah.
And they
talk about an extreme setting, right? It's way
setting,
north.
And a ton of cart traffic. It's like you can walk the golf course. I walked the golf course. I was fine. I wasn't sore or anything. It's a big walk, but you can walk the golf course, but they have a ton of cart traffic. But what they have a bluegrass fescue blend and all their approaches. So the most important place to have fescue to me is in the approaches.
Yes.
Because there's nothing worse than having like a green that's firm and then an approach that doesn't receive a running shot.
Well, it's like what they do at Rustic Canyon. That's so smart, where they have a different grass in the approaches so that you can play the shots that the architecture is making fun. Yeah. Yeah. It's not Kikuya. It's what Riviera should do, but they're too worried about aesthetics there.
But anyways, so at Gray Walls, they have the fescue on, and like this is something I'd wonder with Bandon. Could you get fescue in the run up? Because Poe is causing problems in like you can't hit link shots because it's getting into the approaches.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
Because could you get that? I just heard Childress Hall, a new Tom Doak course in Texas. They're doing fescue approaches. And I think they have Bermuda. I think they have bent greens, if I recall correctly, fescue approaches and Bermuda fairways.
Interesting. And that's in an odd setting for grasses too, right? They're pretty much in the transition zone there, right? The transition zone between warm season and cold season grasses.
Yes.
And so they can kind of have that combination.
But like thinking about like what grasses like, okay, fescue is going to be hard to do to fight on the green. Maybe we give up the green as POA and everybody can, but let's keep our fescue approaches so people can hit the link shots into the green.
Yeah.
Because that's what you want to go to Bandon and do is you want to hit the shots that land short and bounce up. You want to have the ability when you're off the green to hit that seemingly frictionless 6-iron bump and run, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's what you really want to do at Old McDonald, right? That's the whole course there. And so if you lose that, it's sort of a bummer. All right. Can I ask you another question here?
Yes.
This question kind of made me laugh. Bricky Legumes. In your opinion, what is the worst golf hole on a superb / top 20 US course?
Man, I'm gonna make some enemies here.
Should we go nice on this one?
No. Let me see. Do you? What do you want to
Well, I think
use? What do you want?
my immediate idea that comes to mind, and I want to state for the record that I lived in Pebble Beach for 5 years.
I knew you were going to do this,
and I loved it, and I love that golf course, and I truly think that it is and can be, and not that it is, but it can be a top 20 golf course in America. And those holes along the ocean are extraordinary. And, arguing that if the ocean weren't there, it wouldn't be as well regarded a golf course is pointless, because the ocean is there. And there's so many wonderful things about that course. And it is truly near and dear to my heart. But the 15th hole at Pebble Beach.
I thought you were going to go with, what about 5?
Well, 5 is more like, I'm disappointed in you. You wasted an opportunity. You hired the wrong architect. You had the wrong idea. You ruined a great routing sequence on the course. There are all those reasons, but ultimately 5, the hole along the cliffs that Jack Nicklaus added a while back, it used to play inland, now it plays along the cliffs, is not really on its own a bad golf hole. And it's certainly right next to the ocean and all that's kind of nice. But the 15th hole at Pebble Beach is just, there's nothing going on there. Can you tell me something that I should like about the 15th hole at Pebble Beach?
I got nothing.
It's just, for a course of that stature,
I think
a hole like that is just objectionable.
Yeah, I can't think of anything I like about it.
It's really just nothing going on. I'm not even sure what it was originally. I'm not sure that it was a great hole originally, but certainly none of the changes that they've made since then have improved it any. So that hole's a problem.
I'll just go. I'll go differently. I'm kind of just tired of Verdant.
Are you tired of pale imitations of the Redan, or do you think it's like an overused concept in general?
I think I'm just tired of them.
Don't even like the one at Chicago.
No, I like that one. That one's really good.
Do you like the one at the Lido?
It's fine. I play it well. Everybody hates it. I also had an epic chip in from Wright this year, so I think I like it.
It's not a very good reason.
It isn't. It's a terrible reason. But I'll never forget the shot. It was the best shot, maybe the best shot I hit all year.
Okay. Well, you're tired of Verdans, and where are you going with this?
So I'm going to go with the second hole at Fisher's Island. I think it's the worst hole on the golf course.
Interesting choice.
I think it's just not a good Redan.
Yeah.
It's just kind of there. I love Fisher's Island. All right. I love the golf course. And here's the thing. I'm okay with a course having a hole that might stink. Yeah. And
I'm actually kind of okay with a hole like the 15th at Pebble. If there weren't other problems with the course, if you're transitioning from one great hole to another and you kind of have a chill hole in between, okay.
That's fine. And the second's fine. I think one of the things, I think I'd like to see a golf course that was built with just 18 par 4s.
This is, your par 5 trutherism is a real twist in your golf philosophy. You said in the last podcast that you either don't think par 5s exist or don't think they should exist. Now we're talking about all par 4s. Are we applying the same thing to par 3s? We should take them out of the equation.
No, I like par 3s. I do like they're but they're just execution tests for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
I struggle with the idea of is there strategy in par 3s?
Well, I think the strategy is different pin positions and how much you take on, right? The design virtue of a good par 3 is that it creates interesting pin positions where you can make risk reward decisions about what line you're taking at the green.
Yeah. They're execution tests, right? And
well,
I think
I think there's a choice in there. You're choosing the line that you're taking, right? If you take on too much, then you might get punished.
Yeah. I think it's like I think you can be a little bit more bold too, because it's like you're hitting from a flat lie off a tee, right?
Mm-hmm.
So some of the stuff you can do on a par 3, you can't do on a par 4 because you're giving a player a flat lie off a tee, right? So that immediately allows you to have a little bit more going on in the approach around the green with hazards, everything. But I mean, like par 4s, I think like a par 3 would be fun if you could use the entire tee box. Like if I had the option to use the all the way right or all the way left, I'd like to think that like one of the things I think that I can gain an advantage of over a lot of players is just
choosing
like
the right place
where I tee up on every hole. I think about where I'm going to put my tee in the ground to best get to a hole or best get to a spot in the fairway, best to, help shape the shape of shot that I'm hitting on a daily basis. But like with a par 3. So anyways, what I like about par 4s is like that nature of it. There's like a this and that. Like par 3s are such a guided, like you're here and you hit it there, and there's so little optionality in it.
Right.
So I guess I think as I've started to think about it, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, is that I think par 3s are the least dynamic holes in golf in general, but they're the hardest ones to build dynamic nature into because they're like you're hitting off a tee and you're hitting this spot.
Well, you know what
par 3s are revered.
Right.
People take pictures of them
because
and they're popular.
Beautiful. Right. It's the best opportunity for an architect to create prettiness on a golf course, really, is a par 3, because you're just creating one picture. You're creating one painting there. And so you can have some control over the composition in a way that you don't when players are just sort of going where they go on a hole. And so, yeah, they're shallower maybe in that way and not as intricate. But I think the main argument for them is just strategy, because I didn't mean to say strategy. The argument for them is variety.
Yeah.
Because if your hypothetical golf course with 18 par 4s, the danger of that course is that it feels repetitive.
Well, we should try it.
Par 3s break it up.
Somebody should try it.
Why not? Just for the sake of variety across golf courses as opposed to within the golf course.
Arguably, my favorite golf course in the world has 16 par 4s.
What's that?
Ely.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, this is something funny that about like pre-20th century architecture, is that par 3s weren't a thing, really. I mean, I guess kind of a thing. Maybe they had really short holes. But, if you think about St. Andrews, for instance, there are 2 par 3s there. And the rest of the holes are just long holes.
That's one of my favorite courses, too.
There you go. Maybe you just don't like par 3s.
One of the best par 3s in the world, I think, is the 16th at Cypress. There's actually a real layup consideration.
Yeah, right.
I think if you get there and there's like the novelty of going for it. Mm-hmm. But I think if I played there a lot, I would just start laying up.
Yeah.
And unless it was like a calm day and I felt like I was swinging really good.
Man,
because
I'd love
it's
to
just
see
like
that.
Such an insanely hard shot.
Yeah, but you can't convince yourself to lay up. Maybe that is like a playing once in your life kind of thing where you say to yourself, I cannot lay up. But if you played there regularly, I don't know if I would even if I played there regularly, I wouldn't be able to restrain myself from going for it. It's so tempting.
I played at a club that had a crazy green. Mm-hmm. It's a public course now. It's Calumet Country Club. It's on the south side of Chicago. I mean, it had so many different iterations of routings and what number it was, but it was the 14th hole when I played there a lot. And it was like so severely sloped front to back that if you got anywhere pin high, it was like a disaster. You were going to have to like hit a miraculous putt to 2-putt because the green had so much pitch in it. And I would regularly lay up. I would lay up. I'd hit a club.
And chip on.
I literally would hit a club that would by no means get me past the front edge of the green.
Right. Didn't Billy Casper do something like this at Winged Foot?
Yeah.
Isn't there a story about this?
Yeah, he did on the third hole.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so like to me, that's a par 3 that has some strategy in the sense of like, yeah, like it's funny. I played there like a million times. It was the only hole in my life I never birdied.
Yeah. I will say this. Most of my favorite par 3s are either really short or really long.
Yeah.
They're the ones that push at the edges of the category. Because just a 150 to 170 yard par 3, it can be really cool. But if you're just hitting a mid iron, or if you're a stronger player, a short iron, I'm not sure how much excitement there can be in that.
Short par 3s, I do have like a slight, as I've thought about them more. I think I think a lot of them kind of stink in terms of playability. Like a low trajectory player has like no chance.
Yeah, because the way they're often defended is by having a small green surrounded by hazards.
Yeah. And like there's no way to land it on and stop it close.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. But I mean, if you look at the Sandbox, for instance, to go back to Sand Valley, those are basically all kind of shortish par 3s, but there are so many different versions of the short par 3 that they found in that course. And maybe those can be kind of some more models for how you could make a short par 3 interesting.
So I guess I'm jokingly asking, should par 5s or par 3s even exist? Should we just go to just a straight par 4 game?
Let's put that out there to the listeners. They can discuss. They can discuss it on Blue Sky,
or Twitter, or Instagram,
or anywhere you want. The social media platform of your choice. You have choices in today's society.
I can't do all of them. There's too many of them.
I know. It's you have to make a choice. You do. Yeah. What kind of person are you, Andy?
I just might be a non-person.
How about just withdraw from all of them?
YouTube comments. PJ getting in our comments. YouTube comments.
Yeah. PJ loves the YouTube comments. That's his natural environment. In this discussion of the worst holes on the best courses, by the way, I think Riviera got off easy. I'm just going to throw that out there. I think there's some candidates at Riviera. Truly a top 20 golf course, but oh boy.
Which one would you go with?
Oh God, I don't even know. Maybe the current state of 11. I mean, come on. That's a great golf hole. But my goodness, they have abused that poor thing.
What about if you combined one fairway with 4 green in the surrounds?
Okay, let me think about this.
What, if you took one fairway, you hit a tee shot on one, and then the approach shot was the approach into 4.
Okay. Yeah, 4 being the Redan, actually. Another Redan that with the sticky Kikuyu approach that nobody can get through and the overly fast green that nobody can hold. That would defend it.
To be fair, I didn't say I disliked Redans. I'm just tired of them.
He's a Redan hater.
I've reached a tired point.
Andy Johnson, Redan hater. Are we going to wrap up with that?
I think that's it. I think this has reached its conclusion mark. Thank you to everybody for the questions. Garrett, thanks for jumping on and doing this. This was a fun week of pods.
A delight as always.
PJ, big thanks to PJ Clark, editing, producing this podcast. He's a rock star.
Listen, we're recording this kind of late right now, so honestly, send PJ a nice note. Be like, we love you, PJ.
If you haven't yet, check out Club TFE. It's our membership. We put a lot of golf course architecture stuff up there. Garrett's a maniac there. He's writing like sometimes like 3,000 words a week in there, regularly above 1,000 about golf architecture. And then we have, we just released our events slate, as we talked about in part 1 of this podcast. If you're a Club TFE member, you get early access. It's $120 for the year, and it really helps us continue to grow and continue to do more architecture coverage, which I think everybody wants more of. So thank you guys, and thanks for listening to another episode of the Friday Golf Podcast.